to Amphlett Reviews, back with another Hong Kong content review, back in the office briefly, diving more into the Bloodshed movies, this time diving into My Heart Is That Eternal Rose, a very highly regarded Bloodshed movie, a very highly regarded movie in general. Really, people seem to really love this film and give that a really high pedestal just from the kind of the reviews from YouTube and Letterboxd and just general kind of IMDb kind of scoring, and just kind of, you know, this is definitely up there with some of the best of the Bloodshed movies, and I can see why for sure. This is a really nice edition. I bought this up from a Hong Kong import. Very unique kind of slipcase edition, which it goes upwards this time. It's quite cool. So we love the artwork on there. It's a nice little solid edition. There you go. Alternative artwork. And of course you get the disc. With these films, you don't really get much extras, but you do get a really nice transfer, and this is a region-free set. It has the English subtitles, and the transfer, I believe, is brand new, so it looks absolutely fantastic. It looks really, really good. For anyone that is wanting to find this film, want to track it down, I will put a link in the description below for where you can access this film for a really good price, really cheap price, import-wise. So without further ado, let's dive into My Heart Is That Eternal Rose.
沒境身軀以淚，冷冷枕邊再無伴侶，如何令狂熱吻他人的嘴。
My Heart Is That Eternal Rose, released in 1989, directed by Patrick Tam, who has done on to do some quite acclaimed kind of dramas, very small kind of IMDb list kind of career. I think he's only done about 7 movies or so total, all very, very different type of movies. I don't think he's ever done much Bloodshed movies, but the ones that I've seen of his titles and what the films are about, these are definitely more kind of personalized stories. These are much more kind of struggling characters. Some really big actors that are definitely in his movies for sure, and he definitely has a bit of a taste for different types of style. And here we have an all-star cast. We have Kenny B as one of our main leading characters. We have Jerry Wong, who's known from the God of Gamblers, from a movie that I recently did with you, and also known from the Chinese Ghost Story trilogy as well. So definitely kind of an up-and-coming kind of main kind of big 80s kind of actress at the time. And we have a very early performance for Tony Leung, who is known for the Infernal Affairs and for a lot of the Wong Kar-wai series that's from currently trying to get through. This film is no coincidence released in 1989, as mentioned, roughly at the same time as a lot of those kind of Bloodshed kind of movies, and definitely a change within kind of Hong Kong cinema, as discussed on the channel a few times now, either being a comedy, either going to be a Bloodshed movie, category 3 movie, or an experimental movie, a film that kind of pushes the envelope or does a little bit of all of it. And My Heart Is Eternal Rose is definitely a Bloodshed movie through and through, definitely a lot more of a stylistic one for sure. Strong visual kind of sense from the get-go. The film looks absolutely fantastic, looks really gorgeous, especially on the Blu-ray edition itself. The brand new transfer looks absolutely phenomenal. It's a very good looking movie, definitely in the vein of kind of, you know, Wong Kar-wai for sure, and kind of John Woo with some of the action. All the action set pieces are pretty good. They're very few and far between, you don't get many of them. You have a very small personal action sequence at the beginning of the film, which helps set up the rest of the film on, and then you get a really all-out kind of crazy third act finale, which kind of goes full Bloodshed with machine guns and car stunts. The storyline for the film is actually very simple. It's basically 2 lovers that were due to get married. They kind of had an attraction with each other. You know, with Jerry Wong's character, she's kind of the daughter of a kind of an old retired kind of gangster character that has come back. He's messed up on this kind of assignment he's been given from this kind of, you know, Triad Godfather, and you know, she has to make a deal with the devil, this new kind of up and coming Triad, you know, mobster character that basically says, you know, I will help you get your father out of the situation if you be my woman, if you be with me. And she has to sacrifice the love that she has for a kind of a partner, which is Kenny B, who is someone who basically was with the father at the time, who messed up and ended up killing someone and has to go on the run and has to kind of disappear from kind of Hong Kong for quite some time. And the film cuts to 7 years later, and you kind of see where these characters have ended up. Jerry Wong's character is still the wife of the Triad kind of monster character. She's kind of entertaining him, she's kind of entertaining his friends, and she's being the loyal kind of, you know, supporting kind of wife who's kind of longing for that kind of lost long love that she had back many years ago, and she's kind of stuck in a place where she's not happy and she feels very vulnerable and very kind of trapped in the kind of scenario that she's in. She has no form of escape. She can't really do anything without being monitored. You got Tony Leung's character, which from the Infernal Affairs series, his character has basically been assigned to look after her. He's a very much a nice kind of sweet character, someone who's very young to the game, who's getting involved in these kind of gangs, and and he's basically forms a bit of a connection with her, and he cares for her and wants to look after her, and you kind of just fall in love with her throughout the course of the film. And you've got Kenny B's character, which definitely is much more of a side character in the kind of the second and third act. He doesn't play much of a big role until much later into the film, surprisingly, and he's basically a hitman for hire, and he's someone who's gone the more darker route, who was kind of fleeing many years ago and has gone into a life of crime where he's kind of assassinating kind of witnesses, and he ends up going back to the town he once lived, and reconnects with his long lost lover, which they both have that connection, they both have that longing for each other. It is essentially two people that shouldn't be together due to circumstances or time, and they still have those same feelings and they want to give it a shot, but they have to both escape the scenario they're in, both escape the kind of the circumstances they're in, and you've got a lot of characters that are trying to read into that. And the film is very, very simple. Overall, it has a nice kind of first act structure with the whole getting to know the characters, getting to know the scenarios and what lead these characters up into the second act where time jumps, and then the second and third act is basically just exploring who they are now, what their kind of situation is, and the third act is basically them trying to escape. And my opinion for My Heart is Eternal Rose is that I see exactly what people are talking about with this film. I see why people like it. I see why people enjoy it. Great cinematography, great performances. There is some questionable kind of pacing, some questionable kind of editing in places. I think it's a bit choppy within the first act, and then especially into that third act for sure. I think it's a really good, serviceable, really enjoyable film. I definitely would give it a high regard for sure, and I think it's definitely a good, enjoyable one for kind of Hong Kong fans and people who fan of Bloodshed movies, and good performances overall. Great performances by everyone. I do think some performances are better than others. I don't think all the kind of the storylines are go anywhere necessarily. The point what I'm trying to say is I think it's a very good film and it's very well made, and I think it's definitely a recommended film for sure. I do think it's a one-off for my personal taste. And the reason for that is because, one, I'm spoiled with so many great Hong Kong movies, and watching kind of the Wong Kar-wai series and watching some of these other kind of Bloodshed movies within the kind of the same kind of time frame kind of sense, there is just a case of what clicks better for you, what does more for you in terms of your viewing experience, and is it a question of, am I going to go back and revisit this film again after we experience it? And I think because the story is so simple, and it's because it's so specific, and it achieves exactly what it sets out to do. It gives you those emotional cues, it gives you the kind of great characters you can get behind, and it gives you a kind of a journey that you want to see, and it's really well made. It's definitely goes places, escalates in the right places as well. Great performances all around. But once the film finishes and once the film completes, I think for me personally, there's no real reason to return back compared to some of the other movies that I have been watching, where I do want to re-experience that story again. I really want to re-experience those scenarios and those characters and those specific action moments. This one definitely is, just under, a limelight of so many other great Bloodshed movies, romantic based kind of movies, emotional film movies. And while I do give this film a lot of praise and I do think it's very good, I don't think it's one that I'm going to revisit and we kind of talk about again. I think it serves its purpose, and I kind of want to move on, for my opinion. And that's just down to personal taste. I think overall, that's been my thoughts and opinions, and My Heart is Eternal Rose. What are your thoughts and opinions, guys? Please comment down below. Is this one of your favourite Bloodshed romantic movies of all time? Is it definitely highly regarded for yourself, or is it just about right? I'd love to see your thoughts and opinions, guys. Love to see your hype and opinion. Please comment down below. So meantime, guys, Amphlett Reviews, signing out.